My name is Jerome Ferry. My cameraman is Alan Eggers. We're doing a video interview with George Miller, who spent 16 and a half years as a Whitwer farmhand and later as a Quaker Oats employee. George, tell us what year you were born in and where you were born.
I was born in 1932 in September at Strawberry Point in Turkey Timber up there in a log cabin.
Who was your folks? What was your folks' names?
Lyle and Pearl Miller was my mom and dad.
Were they farmers?
Well, they had farmed. Dad had farmed until hog cholera wiped him out, and then he took on jobs here and there and on farm jobs, and of course then he ended up, before he died, he was working at John Deere at Waterloo, living west of Manchester.
Did you have any brothers and sisters, George?
Oh yes, it was 10 of us in the family. I had 5 brothers. Yeah, Roy, Raymond, Harry, Archie, and Clifford. And the girls were May and Dorothy and Harriet and Helen.
Are most of them living today?
2 brothers have passed on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you fit in this lineup, George?
Well, I was the youngest of the boys. Yeah. What?
Third to the youngest.
Yeah, third to the youngest.
Yeah. And you said that you lived in a log cabin?
Yeah.
Is this log cabin a log cabin or one of the modern day log cabins?
No, it was the old, because I remember my mom saying they had to shake the snow off from the blankets when they, got up like in the mornings. It'd be kind of cold in the house.
And were you all living at home at one time? All the brothers and sisters?
I don't know how many would have been right then. I imagine a lot of them were. Some of them might have been off having other jobs, but there's quite a few.
Did you have running water and electricity?
Oh, no. I remember them. They had to walk down the spring or wherever it was and carry the water up. And I remember my mom saying her and the oldest girl, they go down the timber and saw down a tree and work it up too, And of course, and then Dad, he always worked up wood, and I had to help. When I was young, Dad, he would say, "Come on, George, we're going to timber." Oh, I used to hate that.
That was
work.
That was a necessity you had to stay warm in the wintertime.
We did that, and they always hauled a lot of wood, piled a big pile, and then they'd have a saw. A saw be in the fall.
Your folks must have had a hard time making a go of it. 10 kids, and
they
did you have a big garden? Your mother had a big garden?
Always had gardens, big gardens, and they always put away stuff for winter. We would always butcher a hog, in the fall, heat all the water and get the barrel ready on a slant and get the ashes, and you'd run it up and down, take the hair off, and then you wouldn't. They don't do like they do today. Take the hide off and throw it away like everything.
You remember any fun times when you'd grown up as a kid? Was Christmas anything special?
Oh yeah, Christmas was always nice. I remember, being upstairs. I could hear my mom and sister downstairs, and we'd go and try to look down through the register to see what they were doing, And the next morning there was always presents. Somebody would always come and leave a big box of chocolate candy on the table. And they always said it was Santa Claus. We really thought Santa Claus came and brought that candy. Plus most everything else, I guess. That was real good.
Yeah. When was where did you have your first job? Where did you get your first job?
I was working on... I used to help neighbors when I was younger from home. We used to live there west of Manchester there when I was 14. But when we got married, my first job was working on the rock crusher for Bill Anderson here at Cedar Rapids. I worked on that for 6 months. Then...
Which quarry did you work out of?
Oh, we were at Monticello at the time, and we moved to Anamosa. And I think then we went to Marshalltown. It was in the winter. I mean, really, really cold. And I stood up there on top and fed the crusher, And they'd ask me a real cold morning, "You want to go, Jordan?" I said, "Yeah, I'm not making any money sitting here in the motel." So that was the first job. But then I was only with them about 6 months, and then I took a farm job down near Cascade, down
Or Danfield.
yeah, Roy Ganfield's down near Cascade. And of course that's where we was first married in a trailer house and had our first child there. And of course, farming's what I loved. That's all I ever wanted to do was farm, really, because I love farming. I still do love farming, you know.
And so, at what time did you get associated with the Whitwer farms?
Well, I had a job also up north of Manchester for a while, and then the guy down at Cascade come up and said, "If I build a new house, will you come back and work for me, George?" And I said, "Yeah." So I did, and we went back there for, I don't know, a couple of years maybe, however long. And then we went to another one. We went down near Macokota for about 6 months. I didn't like it at that farm. And then that was when Mildred wrote to Harry Simonson.
Well, he had in the paper was they wanted somebody with boys, and they didn't specify what age. So I took my chance in writing to them, and they came out to see us. Flew out to Macokota to see us.
Yeah, Harry and Iva was his housekeeper, had been for many, many years, and was many years after we were there until she passed away. And
what was your starting wage when you first started?
Let's see, every 2 weeks. I'm not sure
150 wasn't it?
Probably 150, 160. You know, every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah, and we finally did get some raises, but Weaver Whitwer, he didn't like giving raises. You know, he didn't care too much for that part.
So at this time, what did you know about the Weaver Whitwer operation? Was it what were they up into?
Well, not a whole lot, but when Harry came and Iva came down to see us that time, Harry, he looked around in the hills where we was working. He said, "I think our operator got this breed all to heck," he said. And so we decided to go up there. And
best move ever made.
we went up there, 1.5 miles east of Alburnett there. And we went there in, 56?
When I was 6 years old
in the spring.
we started working there.
56.
Did Whitwer also have a bottling and wholesale business?
Yes. Oh, yeah, he had that. I remember that was down there on 3rd Street, I think it was. I forget how far on which avenue. You're going down toward the old packing house. From the center of town going down is on the right-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
He had the bottling plant and everything. And then just around the corner, he had his garage where all his trucks and they were worked on, you know. And he had quite a few trucks of his own, you know, his own trucking.
How many employees do you suppose he had?
Oh, probably 45, 50. I mean, you mean on the farms?
Yeah.
Yes, probably 45, 50.
Mm-hmm.
I would say maybe, because he had about 40 farms, whatever it was, you know.
Did he ever have any female employee farm hands working for him?
No, only in the slaughterhouse where they slaughtered chickens and turkeys. That was it. I worked there for 2 weeks.
They built the slaughterhouse after I came there, and then we'd take they hauled about 240 head of hogs per week and 40 head of cattle to be slaughtered over there, and it went real good for quite a while. I don't know just what happened I guess when things started falling apart a little bit, anyway, they quit the slaughtering, and he went to calves. He was feeding calves over there. Just few-day-old calves, 150 of them.
But they had their own processing plant? They would process the beef and slaughter the beef?
I was over there one time. I kind of went through there a little bit, and they had their bacon slicing machines and everything was going, and then packaging it up and the whole works, you know.
How about where did you live? Did you live in a home furnished by Whitwer? Or?
Yes, the house was furnished, but I always used to figure that's kind of part of the wages, and well, I don't know if that was the right way of figuring it, but that's what I saw.
Kind of like room and board.
Yeah, but we lived in the smaller house, not the main house on the farm. Well, for how long did we live there?
Only about a year and a half, and then
Yeah.
we got to move into the
Then
big
we
house.
moved into the house right on the farm, right, just not very far over.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we stayed for all the rest of the time.
Did they pay the utility bills?
I think we had to pay some on them. Yeah, I think we had to pay some, but it wasn't that really much.
Well, he's got all the eggs and milk we wanted.
Yes, we got all the eggs and milk,
Mm-hmm.
and we took care of the chicken, gathering the eggs, and
I did that.
yeah,
Till
you got
the
you had
boys
to wash
got
them.
enough to do it. And then they needed spending money. We couldn't afford to give
we
them
got
home,
an egg
so
washer, and
they took over.
they would do it that way.
Did you have to submit something to the corporation to let them know what you accomplished during a week's time, or a record of the labor performed, or?
Oh, not really. No, I guess they could see what we were doing, and that's one reason that 4 of us got, $50 a month put away in the bank. He put it away for us, and he would not let us take any out and use it. He would not. Now, I don't know. It was his Social Security money, he said, but he says to me, he said, "George, I don't need that." He says, "I don't eat much. I got clothes." He says, "I don't eat much," he says. And then when we quit, I went down to the house upstairs and talked to him. And I said, "I got the money. I can't quit." And he said, "Oh, that money's yours, George." He says. And then he got on the phone to his secretary, Evelyn, and had him transfer the money over to the Alburnett Farmer State Bank in Alburnett.
Did he just put that in a savings account?
Yeah,
or
it's in a
invested
savings.
it?
Yeah. And then they'd send us a slip each time that it had been deposited in the bank for us, which, makes you feel real good, but meantime, you're just trying to get along on what, bare things put in there.
You weren't able to touch that money there.
No, because one time I wanted to borrow some of it, and he said no. He said, "I'll tell you what I'll do, George. I'll let you have that against your bonus." And I thought, gee, I must be going to get a big bonus, because he never give us over $100 a year. Never. It's always the same. And there's always saying, the harder you worked, the more you would make. So you know how when you're raising a family, you just do your darndest to.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, was there any incentive type paid? Like, and you just said the harder you work, supposedly.
And then on Sundays, if we worked all day, a big day, we'd get $20. Harry'd put $20 on our checks. But
how about Saturdays? That was just another work day.
Oh yes, no, that was just another work day. But then there were 2 of us on the farm I was on there east of Alburnett, but eventually I guess they thought, well, one guy can do it. So they just rented the house out to somebody else, and then they were taking in money and they weren't paying that guy nothing. And I always felt the guy shouldn't say nothing, just do the work and keep his mouth shut. Just do the work. But there was so much, to do.
Yeah. Your wife and children now, if they would have done some type of work towards the farm effort, would they have gotten any pay for that?
Yeah,
Yes.
the kids did.
The boys helped. The older boys was able to help him with baling and different jobs, so they got money that way.
Yeah, they got paid. But then they come around with that law, if you're working like that, they had to be 14, I think it was. Of course, our boys, I had them out there when I could just get them on the tractor and show them how to push the clutch, and raking hay or something.
They were farm boys.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it's a
we
good
had
place to raise 5
Yes.
boys.
And they would give them some money, and of course the kids got money for taking care of the eggs too.
50 cents. They'd
50
gather
cents.
the eggs, wash them and pack them
case.
up in these
Yeah,
big,
case.
and they get 50 cents a case.
And they had their own egg truck where they came around to all the farms and picked the eggs up and took them to their stores, say. And I never
Sometimes
did.
they'd have a bunch of roosters, and they'd divide the roosters up among the workers.
Well, whenever we'd get the pullets, you know, they'd be roosted, and then they'd just bring around.
So they always had fresh flour.
Were you responsible for keeping the farm place in good repair? Was that your
Well,
responsibility?
they had their own carpenters. They had 6 men that did their carpenter work all the
And
time.
if there was something major, you would just let them know, and they would
Yeah,
come
yeah.
around and take
Or
care of it.
they had their own painters too that would come around to do painting, and they kept the farms up, you know, just tip top. Very, very much. And
This farm that you were farming on, how many acres? How many acres was on the farm?
well, there was 400 on the actual farm that I was on. It was pretty much square.
On the average, how many acres of corn did you try to plant in a?
Oh, we always had. Well, that was between our farm and the other. Well, there was 4 farms that I helped. We worked together, about 5 of us guys, and we always had 150 acres of oats, you know, which was hay. The next year was so we always had 150 acres of hay, and corn. Well, just on one place, we probably had 250, 300 on my place. And all together, we probably had 600-700 acres of corn on the 4 farms, 4 or 5 farms.
Back in when you were farming, were you cribbing the corn, or did they have combines then?
Well, they combined it at first when I went there, you know, for quite a while. And then, of course, during this time, they built the elevator over on Highway 13. You know, they built it from scratch, everything. And we were drying the corn over there. They had a beautiful setup. Really worked good, you know. It worked very, very good. And so we did that for a while, and then all of a sudden, Weaver got it into his head it's costing too much money. And so he just quit that, and he started putting up these ear corn cribs, you know, 7 feet wide and about 12 feet tall and 100 to 200 feet long. Oh man, and those were a lot of
They
work.
used to have a great big, huge, round brick corn
Well,
cribs.
Yeah, we put the ear corn in these big hollow tile cribs, but if it wasn't dry enough, it wouldn't fall down, you know, from up there, and you had an awful time getting it down.
Did
Yeah.
he believe in using fertilizer?
Yeah, we had fertilizer. He'd buy it by the bulk, you know. It'd come in on freight cars down there at Marion when they had their other elevator right there in Marion. They had their elevator, and it would come in, and we'd even go in with trucks and haul it out. You know, the phosphate and the potash, and we'd haul it out. If we weren't using the silo rooms, we'd just dump it in there, make a big line of it, and then we'd take the manure loader and load it up into a spreader, you know, fertilizer spreader wagon that's hooked onto the tractors, and we'd spread our own, you know, because they thought, well, that's saving too, you know.
In all of these farming operations, like picking corn and filling silo and baling hay, was this kind of a community effort amongst the farm hands, or were you responsible for your own acreage?
Well, no, we worked together on our end of the outfit. All of us, we worked together, and if we got ours done, then they'd send us to some of the other farms to help. It was a never-ending job, and we would help either make hay or even haul manure. I'd go clear down where it's Pheasant Ridge now is built. Is that out there? That was all farmland, and I helped farm that. I cultivated corn, sprayed corn there, and picked corn, and
Before we forget it, would you like to show that picture?
This one, you took a picture of this one, didn't you?
No,
Or did-
not yet. No,
Oh, this
no.
here one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Can you get that out?
Step on it.
Yeah. Now, is this the farm you lived on?
Yes, this is the farm here.
It says
We
Luke.
lived at.
Luke.
Says Luke and Miller Farms. I don't know what all the purpose and reason was, but I suppose it was
Tax.
maybe taxes. You know,
Who is this Luke?
tax for-
He
George
died
Luke.
a few years
George Luke, he was the foreman. He was our foreman.
Mhm.
He lived halfway down between the farms, you know.
Very nice. How many hogs do you suppose you'd raise in any one year?
Oh, you mean just on the farm I was on?
Yeah.
Well, every 2 months we'd be raising. We had
You'd be fair on hogs.
we had a 20-pen hog house, but he'd always say, we can always find room for some out here in this shed here, over there in that corner, here and there. So we'd breed more than we needed, and that was a pain. I had to get them penned up, you know. Couldn't just leave them run with all the rest, and I'd have to pen them up. But we'd have probably 1,000 head just on our. Let's see, 1,000 head at least just on our farm, or 1,200.
Did you have any cattle at the same time?
Oh yes, all kinds of cattle. Maybe one time they brought in 750 head from Mexico, and they were wild. Oh, they went crazy and over the fence, busted stuff down. But he brought them in, and then about all I got done was digging hay. We had the chopped hay up in the hay mow, and I'd dig that out into a big chuck wagon, you know, and take it out and run it into the bunks, you know, and boy, they just...
They were noisy
it was
too.
gone. Now I have to go back and load more. We used to bale, but that was a job too, you know.
With all this livestock on the farm, the vaccinating of the hogs and the castrating of the hogs and dehorning of the cattle, is this something that you had to do by yourself, or did they have veterinarians come around?
I did the castrating of the hogs, and then I helped our foreman, George Luke, do the castrating or the crimping of the calves. And then, of course, the vaccinating, well, the major vaccinating was done by Dr. Kloppenstein, who's the mayor of Marion now. Vic, he was out there an awful lot, and we did a lot of vaccinating. But whenever we had sickness in hogs, I mean, I'd give the pigs shots myself even, or if I had help, that was nice too. But I'd have to run them into the chute sometime, try and get them in. When I was young back then, I could run and get them in, give them shots, you know, and mark them. Oh, what a job!
Did you ever have a down moment when you got to thinking about if you were getting paid enough for the amount of work you were doing?
Oh, yeah, I suppose. I mean, a person could have always used more money, you know.
Did you find yourself trying to do more than was really necessary?
Oh, yes, definitely.
That was just
Always.
your background.
Always.
You believed in an honest day's
That's
work.
all a person could do is try and hope that it paid off, and which it did, because Weaver evidently seen it and put that money away for us, and he put we had 3,200, you know, that he put over in the bank at Elbernet,
Mhm.
so that helped us get a
Yeah.
start down at Quaker, you know.
All your farm bills that you entailed on the farm, did you just submit them to a Whitwer account?
Yeah, either that or I don't know how that all was done. I mean, of course, I never paid for it. I didn't have no money to pay for it. But usually they took care of the most of that themselves, you know. I mean, they kind of knew how that stood. And
Where did
there.
Weaver? Where did he reside? Where was his home?
Well, he stayed at his house on Hilltop Farm, there on East Post Road. It's the highest spot on East Post Road.
Is that where he had
highest
his
point.
office?
Oh, no, if you're talking about his working office, that would have been downtown there where the bottling plant and the, what would you call it? where he kept all of his, that's where his main office, because I used to go in there to get Lewis Sly to scrub the hog houses down. If I wanted a couple cases, I'd give 4 or 5 cases. George, he'd tell me where to go and load it up, And then, let's see, and then I would see his secretary or whatever, not his secretary, but the workers and typewriters. He'd have a room having rows and rows and rows of women sitting there doing stuff, typing and doing all kinds of stuff. And he'd sit on that tall stool, and he'd be taking a phone call from this one, get another one, he'd be talking to them both at the same time from there. That's the way he was. I don't know how he could do all that.
What type of person? Was he a warm person? Was he easy to get to know, or was he kind
seemed
of a loner?
pretty good to me. I mean, I never had no trouble with him. He had his own ways and ideas, of course, and toward the end he got a little, I don't know what you call it. But I know one day I was butchering a hog, had it strung up with the manure loader. And I was butchering, taking the skin off, and him and Harry come over there, and he says, "Gee," he said, whoever said, "You're leaving a lot of meat on the hide there, George." I thought, that's lard. You don't want that lard anyway, But anyway, no, I really didn't have too much problem with him. He was pretty easy going.
He probably recognized you as one of his top employees.
Well, I hope he thought I was okay.
Did you ever get to go to his home at Hilltop?
Yes, I was down there a few times. A few times when our foreman, when he wasn't feeling good or something, and I kind of just took over, And the rest of the guys would come to me, maybe, "Well, what are we going to do today, George?" and stuff. And if there was something I had needed to know about or needed, I'd maybe go down and see him, and talk to him about it,
Just down the road, just down East Post Road, there's a large barn. What was that barn used for?
Yeah,
was that a Whitwer barn?
That was Whitwer's horse barn. Yeah, he had a bunch of horses in there.
Why such a large barn?
I don't know. Maybe he kept his motorcycle and such in there too. He'd ride a motorcycle. Yeah, he'd go
Well, every
motorcycle.
morning they said he rode his horses around.
Yeah.
He had indoor
Track.
track, so
Was this a riding horses or farm horses that he kept?
Riding horses, yeah, I think mostly. Because we had to haul hay and straw down there and put it up above, so they would have it, And that's kind of cool, going down there. I think way back when I started, that road was rock back then, all out through there. Of course, they changed that.
Did he ever have any Christmas parties for employees that you recall?
No. Harry Simonson, he'd always give us something for Christmas. Maybe a big bag of those work gloves, or
well, yeah, Whitwer used to give us a box of groceries.
Oh yeah, a box of
and
groceries.
A big thing of cheese once in a while.
Oh yeah, and a big
they gave us.
Sure.
And I think they gave turkeys.
Yeah.
Different years.
Yeah.
If you ever needed any supplies on the farm, could you buy them any place in town, or did you have to go to a Whitwer store, food store?
Whitwer had his own farm store, hardware store, down there on Marion, right there on, it would be 8th Street, let's see, go in on 10th, it'd been 11th. 8th and 11th. It'd be right there on the corner. I'm not sure what's in there now.
How about on the farm? Did you have trucks to work with?
Oh yeah, we had big straight trucks, and some of them were good, and some of them were old, dilapidated. Of course, they had their own semi. They had their man that hauled their cattle and hogs over to their slaughtering house.
Now, as far as vehicle repair, did he have a large repair shop where
he had a mechanic shop. It was on Wayside Dairy Farm where they did the mechanic, and he hired a mechanic, which was also the guy that run the semi to haul cattle and stuff over. What was his name? Sam? I think Sam was, what the last name was. It was like Sam.
All of this corn and beans that they raised on the Whitworth farm, well, the corn, the bean, and the oats, was this something that was fed on the farm to the livestock, or would they have sold this? They wouldn't sell it in the store.
No, this was all fed out, because I usually carried 300-400 head of fat cattle, and I had a big Kelly Ryan wagon that would, feed, or you could kind of mix and feed it out into the bunks, and that held 120 bushel, and I would fill that and dump that whole thing off. Just think what that would cost, and plus the proteins that I threw on top to mix with it, and plus the silage and hay. Just imagine what that cost.
Did the Whitworth farm operation, did they have, we know they had processing of the beef and processing of chickens and turkeys. Did they have vegetable farms, and where they raised vegetables for the stores, or do you recall?
Oh, I don't remember any of that. Do you recall that?
How about a feed mill? Did they have their own feed mill for all the farms? And
Well, until they got the new mill built over there on Highway 13, they used to have somebody come around and grind, and they'd grind the hay and all the other commercial feeds and stuff together that was mixed, and that was like that,
you just notify them and let them know when you needed some feed.
But I had to grind the corn for the cattle when we had those long cribs. Oh, that was a job, because you had to shovel so much. But you'd back up to it with the tractor in the mill and the wagon beside of it, and you'd just grind and grind and grind and grind and grind, and it would only feed so much down, roll down into there, and then you have to scoop all that scooping. But when we were filling these cribs, we would fill them up, and then they would settle a couple of feet or 2.5 feet maybe. And I'd nail the tin all on. I'd tear that tin all off and fill it on up, because we thought it was wasting that space. What a job that was. That was a job.
Did you, along about this time, was any of your boys big enough now to start helping you on the farm?
Well, they helped, where they kind of could. Of course, they was in school, but most of them.
Well, in the summertime they'd help.
But yeah, we helped with the haying quite a bit. Sometimes it's just them and I.
Sometimes they'd even work for neighbor farmers, baling hay, make a little money that way too.
Yeah,
they were never too proud to work. They was like the dad.
Our oldest boy was Wayne, and then we had Leonard, who's deceased now, and then Edward and Alan and David. And yeah.
Could you butcher a cow, or could you butcher a pig or a steer?
Well, yeah, you could a hog, but you had to pay him so much for it. See, they used to give it to him, and then they got arguing. This one's getting a bigger one, and so that was out. No more.
How about a steer?
No, we never did with the cattle. No.
When you went to do your grocery shopping, did you get a discount at the Whitworth stores? Or?
I don't think so. I don't remember really any. We might have.
No, we didn't.
Can't remember.
We didn't.
Oh, I see.
No.
According to one of the articles that I had read, that at one time at their peak, they were farming something like 7,000 acres.
Yeah,
in
I imagine.
Linn and Benton counties.
Mm-hmm. Because I remember Harry one time, he was building a chicken, big place to raise chickens, for slaughter. And here he said, well, to bring in dirt and scrape dirt, and here we got 7,000 or 8,000 acres, and we got to haul in something, whatever he was hauling in, filter or whatever.
Who is this Harry you're talking about?
Harry Simonson, yeah. Harry Simonson.
He was overseer.
Very, very nice person. Very nice person. Harry, and that's a picture of his. He finally married when he was about 80 years old, and she seemed real nice. We had a big picnic out at Squaw Creek Park, and it was really good to see him there.
He hadn't been married before that?
No, he had never ever been married. Of course, Harry's from Denmark, the old country, and he had two brothers over here, Clyde and who was the other one? Clyde and I know the other one.
They were kind of like farm managers for.
Yeah. Well, now, yeah, Clyde was down south of Marion. He was the manager of the farms down there, and the other brother run the mill. He run the mill over on 13, and he didn't talk quite as fluently as Clyde and Harry. And boy, if he got excited, forget it. You better just be able to what he was saying. 'Cause he, you know, a nice guy.
Yeah. In your opinion, did the out of the 7,000 acres they were farming, was a good portion of this, or most of it, very good farmland?
Very, very good farmland. He had mostly all good farmland. On the 400 acres we had, it was black. It was really good land. Very good land.
Did he offer you, or did he provide you with any type of medical insurance?
Yes, we had some kind.
Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yeah, I guess it was
Not
Blue
the
Cross
first
Blue Shield.
few years we were there, but then they came around with it.
And of course, we mentioned the savings plan that he did set $50.
Yeah.
How often?
Yeah. Once a month.
$50 a month.
Yeah,
He
once a
set
month
aside for you.
We'd get a statement that $50 had been deposited into the bank. That his bank down there at Cedar Rapids. Which one was that, man?
Sarah Dillon.
Huh?
Sarah Dillon.
No, he had his particular bank.
He didn't have a pension plan for any of his employees.
No, nothing I know of on that part.
In the farming operation, were most of the decisions left up to you to do your own good judgment, or was there a set way of doing things?
No, we kind of, did because we knew what to do. We run it like they were our own farms. Of course, George Luke, he'd have the say because he was the foreman, and of course, I kind of had my say too because I thought, and I always got along. I tried to get along. I got along with everybody, most everybody.
Yeah. Did you ever find any of the employees being slackers? I know farm workers are generally a very hard-working group.
Some of them were, yeah. Some of them would quit early in the evening to go bowling or something when they had maybe work to do, which I suppose it's all right, but it didn't seem all right to me.
When you left this operation, was it because it was coming to the end of an era as far as Whitworth farms?
It was getting to where, the way I put it, it kind of wasn't any good anymore. It just wasn't. Things were going, downhill. They were going the other way.
Whitworth's mind wasn't as stable as it was either. He was getting wacky ideas about different things.
So you probably seen the handwriting on the wall that is probably time to move on.
Yeah, and
were you given an option to buy the place you lived in, or to buy a farm, or any acreage?
Not really. There was something mention or talk about that, wasn't there, one time?
Oh, they just.
But how would I would have had to have a lot of help to ever, it would have been, I guess, okay. But one of the guys that I worked with on the farms right there where I was at was real good friends of ours, and Mildred knew his wife real well. And when he quit and he went to work at Quaker Oats, he was up Central City living there. And we went up there, and Mildred could tell you as much about that.
Well, I'd go and visit his wife. They had 4 boys, and we had 5. But anyway, I'd go out for the day. He'd take me in, then Wayne or Letter would come and get me out the guy from school. And he'd come home from work, Bob would, and show me his check stubs. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
And so one day in the middle of summer, he called up and said, Mildred, there's 2 openings down in Quaker Oats. Sarah George to get his rear end down there now. So him and one other guy got it.
Yeah,
got
2 of us on the Whitworth farms went down there to apply for the jobs, and we got them. And the other didn't get them.
Well, because of your work experience and
Yeah,
your
and our,
work ethic, they probably
kind of physical ability, and we weren't maybe overweight like some of them. The nurse said some of them that come in here, you wouldn't believe, George. I don't know why they even come back.
So how old were you when you went to
I
work?
was 41
41.
when I went to work at Quaker.
What year was that?
What was that? 73.
Yeah.
That year I moved from Whitworth over there about 2.5 miles southwest of Elburnett to in a big farmhouse. And it was Lester Meyer's farm. He had farm down the road, and then I was on one of the farms. And I helped take care of the hogs in the confinement, there.
What was your starting wage at Quaker?
Oh, I think I probably got, what was it maybe? 250 or 300? I'm not sure.
A week?
Yeah.
I don't know how much you got an hour.
Yeah. Maybe a week. An hour? Well, probably maybe $7 to $8 anyway, compared to all the hours I put in. If I'd have figured it out, Whitworth's probably $1 an hour. But like I say, we did get all the eggs we wanted, all the milk we wanted, and that helped. We lived on milk and eggs.
Well, you'd have to make more than that. Because you was making better than $20 an hour.
Well, yeah, I was making $120 when I retired 4.5 years ago.
When you first started at Quaker, what was your job?
Well, I was a millwright all the time. I went in as a millwright, and I got right on. I was lucky as a journeyman. I was a journeyman.
Explain a millwright. What is?
Well, a millwright's someone that replaces all kinds of machinery and fixes machinery and replaces belts, chains, and motors and gearboxes and reducers and all of that kind of work. When I first went there, we even installed the new machinery, but in later years, they would subcontract that out, to other companies, and have us just doing mostly, breakdowns. Well, in fact, I was on days for 6 months, and then I went nights. I was on there longer than anybody that's ever been there, 19 years about. And I was on there mostly for breakdowns, if something broke down. There was usually 2 of us. One time there was 3 of us. Sometimes there was only 1 of us. Boy, that was a job. But
did you have Quaker have good benefits, medical insurance, and
yeah, they got pretty good
pension?
And the pension, everything. And of course, you can say what you want, but the harder you work, the more you were rewarded down there. Because we get, pretty good on it increases your Social Security, it increases your pension. But of course, our kids were mostly all grown up. They were grown up, so I could work, and I did work.
What year did you retire?
It was 4.5 years ago. It was in
97?
97.
97. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
If you had to do it over again, George, with your life, would you done anything different? Did you ever regret staying so long at the Whitworth Farms and working so hard? Or
well, I'd have been further ahead. Probably had more money if I'd have gotten out earlier. But it wasn't what I wanted. I wanted farming. I love farming. But farming's a lot of hard work. I just couldn't. I can't see myself even beginning to do what I did back then. I couldn't begin. I wouldn't even think of doing as much as I did.
Well, we had our lean years.
Lord.
when we lived on the farm. But we were
Good,
happy and we
yeah.
were young and we
Oh,
could handle it.
yeah.
But now
We
since
were
we're older,
happy. We
I'm
didn't
glad
have-
he got a better job.
You know, we had just what we had to have.
Yeah.
Well, we couldn't hardly have what we had to have, leave alone things we didn't have to have. You know how it was back
We never
then.
went out to eat.
Yeah.
We stayed
No,
at home.
nowadays, you know, you go out to
Three
eat.
times
We
a
never
day.
did that.
What
Yeah.
year did you get married?
It was in
No,
50.
we were married 51 years in November.
Yeah, we were married. We've
Yeah,
been married
yeah,
51
yeah.
years.
And I think you
That's it.
mentioned your boys' name, and
5 boys.
Yeah.
Leonard, the second one, died from brain cancer 19 years ago last October.
Mm-hmm.
But the other 4 boys, they all 4 have wonderful wives, and we got 8 regular grandchildren and 2 great grandchildren. There's the newest one, the great grandson born the 6th of January, and we got an oldest granddaughter's husband. So we got a pretty nice family.
Oh, yeah. Put glasses on or off? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, sometimes they look dark in pictures.
we changed the location here to get a shot of the of your family picture. George, did any of your sons ever show any interest in farming, or?
Well, not a whole lot, and I never really encouraged them because I figured they could find work that would pay better, and maybe when I work quite as hard. But no, they never. Well, the youngest boy, he kind of wishes he would like to, but it's so hard, you know, to have a place and have land. But he would like to. But just the youngest one, actually, in that part.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unless either one of you have anything to add, the Cedar Rapids History Center, the Linn County Historical Society, would like to thank you very much for sharing your memories with us.
Well, thank you very much for coming out, and
You're
well,
welcome.
took part in this.